want you all to imagine if your skin complexion could dictate your health. Sounds silly, right? But it is the harsh reality of many Americans today. Health disparities, inequality, and inequity are terms we all have heard once before. African Americans suffer the worst outcomes of any other American group. They receive poor health care and resources, leaving them to live sicker and die younger. Most of the time, it results from environmental and societal factors that are beyond their control. Factors such as race, class, gender, and yes, of course, racism, play a vital role in the lack of health-seeking behaviors within the Black community. To combat negative stereotypes such as Mammy, Sapphire, and the Jezebel, some Black women internalize this new and more profound stereotype, the Superwoman. We all know a Superwoman, whether she is Michelle Obama, Beyonce, or even Harriet Tubman. We've seen these women as resilient and can overcome anything despite any downfalls. You never see them show negative emotions. They uplift their husbands while being able to preserve their families and community. This unrealistic expectation to be a superwoman is one of many causes to why Black women choose not to report intimate partner violence. Of this research was to explore how Superwoman schema can be used as a mechanism to explain IPV-related disparities among Black women. The learning objectives of this research is to articulate the public health significance of IPV among Black women, define the Superwoman schema and its impacts on African American women's health, and to assess the importance of using Superwoman schema to understand the health and disparities in reporting IPV among Black women. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention characterizes IPV as a physical, sexual, or psychological harm by a current or former partner or spouse. IPV is a significant public health issue affecting 1 in 3 women in the U.S. during their lifetime. Research shows that IPV also affects the Black community at disproportionate rates compared with other racial identity groups. Some scholars assert that aspects of Black culture may challenge Black women's willingness to desire to report and disclose their IPV, victimization. Although the CDC states that IPV does not discriminate, I would challenge this and state that it does in ways of institutional racism, lack of resources, and accessibility to healthcare and legal services. I'd like for you all to take some time to look over these statistics. These statistics are extremely high for a minority population. Despite these shocking statistics, the silencing of and structural biases against Black women have devastating consequences such as incarceration of survivors. Approximately 57% of Black state prisoners are victims of abuse. Violence perpetuated against Black women are constantly ignored, contributing to victims feeling coerced into criminal activity to fight back to defend themselves. The survival strategies of Black women are criticized and criminalized. The reluctance to report their Black aggressors is rooted from historical harassment and killings of Black men and women from those who are supposed to protect them in the first place, such as police officers. This particular research project used the Superwoman schema framework as a guide for a scoping review to better understand how Superwoman schema as a mechanism to explain the disparities in IPV-related outcomes among Black women, including low incidence of reporting IPV and health seeking. 123 full-text articles was assessed for eligibility, but only 69 articles on Superwoman schema and the impact on health of Black women was utilized. Only 1 article of Superwoman schema connected the intersectionality of Superwoman schema and IPV. The framework was created by Cheryl Woods Gresham in 2010. This framework was used to better understand the role that Superwoman schema plays within the lack of Black women who utilize mental health services. For this research project, we will be using this exact framework to better understand how the Superwoman schema affects the reporting incidents among Black women. Woods categorized the framework into 4 sections, all being characteristics, contents, benefits, and liabilities associated with the internalization of Superwoman Schema, discussed at a greater length in this presentation as it relates to IPV-related disparities. Superwoman Schema and its manifestation of strength and caretaking among Black women has been rewarded in the Black community, yet research demonstrates that the core expectations of Superwoman Schema has been shown to negatively affect women's health captured in Superwoman Schema's conceptual model as perceived liabilities. This will be explained throughout the presentation. The obligation to manifest strength was critical for African slaves, which still affects the Black community today. Strength is used as a coping mechanism rooted from historical oppression, which forced Black women to suppress anger, pain, and sadness. Black women's strength today is seen as an unbending to life circumstances. Black women had to suppress these emotions to shield from their masters, to show their children how to behave when they got older. Although we recognize that strength has gotten Black women through tough times, this strength has challenged Black women's ability to identify signs of depression and other mental health outcomes, believing that they could pray their illness away or troubles away. Black survivors are also told by advocates that they are strong, allowing Black survivors to avoid seeking help from their IPV victimizations due to lack of normalization of doing so within the Black community. As discussed in the previous slide, Black women suppress their emotions to combat historical oppression and trauma. Some Black women express that they have learned this characteristic from their foremothers through observation. When Black women reach out for mental health services, they are misunderstood and not taken seriously. There is a lack of representation within the mental health professionals, making it difficult for this community to trust their therapists. Most people in the Black community consider themselves Christian, and mental health is seen as a weakness or demonic. Some Black women have expressed that they would rather take their problems straight to God than to a complete stranger, contributing to self-silencing when they do actually need help. This reluctance to rely on a system that was not necessarily built for them. The institutional and legal system had failed the Black community repeatedly. The public's perception that the Black woman is more independent has been misinterpreted, their actual need for support. Black women will rather withstand abuse and stop violence themselves than to be shamed by their community for receiving help from oppressors. Black women are obligated to protect Black men from a racist system than to protect themselves from abuse, resulting in a lack of reporting of IPV. Black women are less likely to be labeled or label themselves as victims because of the survivor role that they take on by defending themselves. Determined to succeed despite limited resources to ensure that generational wealth continues. There is this dedication to overcome challenges to achieve their aspirations in life no matter the cost. The Black community is raised to be better than their parents were. Black women's strength allows for them to get through tough situations that could be holding them back. This is from the acknowledgement that slavery has affected the Black community for such a long time. Although this determination has uplifted the Black community, it has also blinded Black women from seeing symptoms of their emotional distress and delay receiving the help that they actually need. Black survivors live in fear of losing their children due to limited resources to help them. Most of the time, Black women are financially dependent on their partners for survival, keeping them in abusive relationships for financial stability. 1/3 of all homeless women with children have reported IPV as a root to their homelessness. Black women are taught that no matter how bad a situation may get, to handle it alone, quietly, and with dignity. Many Black women do not have the privilege to depend on others for help since they are carrying the weight of families and communities. Black women are also stuck with having to balance several roles while prioritizing caregiving over self-care. Black women may believe that by reporting, it puts a strain on the Black community, resulting in one-parent households and being financially unstable. There is nobody there to help the caregiver when they need help. Black women fear receiving help from others because they do not want to put weight on someone else's tough life. Black women choose not to report IPV because they are the strength that holds the community together. Although there is limited resources that use this framework for researching Black women's experiences, evidence does suggest that Superwoman Schema is a useful framework for explaining such disparities. There is a need for cultural humanity among practitioners to understand the historical and cultural context that may affect Black women who experience IPV. There is also a need for culturally appropriate, sensitive, and relevant intervention methods that consider Superwoman Schema. And lastly, there is a need for media literacy among Black women to be savvy consumers of media that perpetuates Superwoman ideals. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.